Yeah, okay. So, like I said, my name is Alice. I'm a game designer and writer from Zurich. For a living, I actually make local multiplayer games controlled by smartphones for Air Console. So, yeah, my past few years of job experience after studying game design were very local multiplayer party game heavy. But I'm gonna talk about something entirely different today. And the funny thing is, everybody else had shared their concerns about like not knowing what their favorite game was, and I couldn't tell you what my favorite game was either. But still, when you're gonna ask me to do this, my favorite game presentation, I instantly knew what I was gonna talk about, because as those of you who have seen my open mic thing before know already, I am like deep into horse games at the moment. And I'm not going to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 because it has pretty horses, but it would be fucking boring because you all know about Red Dead Redemption already. So, I'm going to get out the obscure shit. This is... Where do I... Slideshow there. This, my friends, is the good shit. Okay, so, Pferd und Pony... Jeez, how do I cancel autoplay? Oh, okay, yeah, all right, I'll try again. No, that wasn't it. It's paused. Okay, it's paused. Good, thank you. Pferd und Pony, mein Pferdehof, and the reason why I say the title in German is because I don't think it ever got translated into English. Pferd und Pony, mein Pferdehof got released in... It's a mouthful. It was released in 2003, which would make me about 11 at the time. So this was not the first video game I've played. By then, I must have played at least one Tomb Raider game, and I probably spent my weekends mostly playing Sims, or perhaps Sims 2. I don't have the timeline straight. And it was developed by a German developer called Pixon Interactive. The Pferd und Pony brand was actually had other titles in it, which was there was a big like boom of edutainment horse games around 2000 and 1 to 8, let's say, and this was the best one, which I know. I'm not going to pretend like I played all of them, but I played a couple, and this was honestly like the only one that felt like it tried to be a good game. Because, as I've mentioned in my open mic talk before, like nobody takes the genre of horse games seriously. And probably nobody in this room either, I'm aware of that. But there is an audience for that kind of stuff, and of course back in the day, this kind of stuff got a lot of girls into gaming who wouldn't have been into other things. And I think it's time that this shit gets taken seriously as well. So yeah, this came out in 2003 for PC. I'm going to talk about the PC game. I know that it came out on Game Boy Advance, but I know from a friend of mine who also played it that the Game Boy Advance version was actually kind of limited. So it didn't have the same kind of mechanics, it didn't have as much detail, it was kind of buggy. So yeah, the PC version is the one that I'm going to talk about. In Pferd und Pony, mein Pferdehof, your task is to, this is the main menu, your task is to lead your own horse yard stables, and you can own several horses, you have to take care of them, you can ride them in tournaments, you can breed horses, and all those features when I described them, like a lot of horse games have that in common, technically, but for some reason, for this one, it actually worked. And so this is what the main screen kind of looks like. This is your stable overview, where you have different you have these different patches of land. You have the your bureau office building here. You have the actual stables, and then these patches of land can all be bought to build stuff on them. And I would have liked to show you a late game screen because you can like put fancy buildings on all of this. It still looks the same, it's still the same screen, but you can have like really fancy buildings. But unfortunately, I cannot find any, like there's 3 YouTubers that started Let's Playing this, but they never finished. So there's no late game footage to be found on the internet. And I cannot play it anymore because not even a Windows XP virtual machine works. I still have the original CD. Here that's like the goals that you have, and this is all you ever get in terms of like quests or tutorial or. It just gives you like, okay, get your horse's trust, you get $1,200 for it. Breed a foal, you get $4,000 for it. And it's so simple. When I looked at this again, I was a bit shocked that it's so plump, you know. It doesn't tutorialize it nicely. It doesn't give you one quest after the other. It just tells you like, here's everything you should do in the game. And it's so cheap, and I did totally not recall that this part was so cheap because I loved it. This is what it looks like in game. So this on the left, the bigger picture is what your like one horse stall looks like. And like I said, when you upgrade the game, it gets fancier. It gets like so this is like this cheap wooden shed, right? But if you upgrade your stables, you have like stone walls, and you have a horse in the background that walks across the paddock and fancy shit like that. And you guys all laughed when this screen came up, and I assume it's kind of because it looks so cartoonily shitty. But on the other hand, every other horse game from that period and from later on tried to look realistic. But they did not have more budget than this one. So as you can imagine, every horse game looks like absolute shit. Because they all try to do this kind of pseudo-realism. And even one that came out in 2014 still looks like it was a PS2 game because nobody has the budget for realism in this genre. They should have. What the gameplay is kind of about is like you have to keep your horse's needs met. You have to feed it. You have to brush it if it's dirty. You have to. It has like these stats that tell you how long it can go when you ride it, basically. And you have these training sequences where you build up your horse's stamina and you build up your horse's strength over time. And I wish I could tell you more about how exactly that worked, because I remember that I had a shit ton of fun with it, but I cannot actually play it anymore these days, which kind of breaks my heart, because I would love to give you some more information that was not just like my nostalgia mixed with a new Let's Play that I watched this week. I wish I could tell you what it was like to play this game today, because I would fucking love to. But alas, it doesn't run anymore. And yeah, kind of just one more thing, this strength stat here, that was also what kind of your long-term motivation, because you started out with a horse that had shitty strength, and over time, as you bred more horses, they always got a little bit better. And so eventually, that was kind of the long-term goal, was to breed up your horses so they had more strength, so they could participate in more advanced tournaments. Then you have these screens which are kind of, they look a bit point-and-click adventure, where, for example, here's like where you buy equipment for your horses, saddles and bridles and food. Here is the horse trader, where you can, if you have a female horse, you can bring it there to get it inseminated. Yeah, that's a bred, studded, I don't know what you call it actually. So yeah, you can get the horse pregnant there, and then you have a foal. This is your office where you can like look at your statistics. This is the city overview where you go to participate in tourneys, to buy horses and to buy all that kind of stuff. And like I said, these screens, they don't look amazing or anything, but at least they have like a consistent art style, and they look kind of endearing. They didn't age badly, and looking endearing, consistent art style, not aging badly, that's already a hell of an achievement for a horse game, because none of the others did. So yeah, some of the things you can achieve over time is like you can win tournaments, you can breed those foals, and if the foals grow up, then you can ride them, and then they have better stats than their parents, so they do better in the tournaments. And you can buy horses, but eventually you're not gonna buy them anymore. You're just gonna breed ones yourself because they're better and they have the prettiest colors that you want. And your horses also have like a family tree, and at the beginning it's just all unknown. And the more generations of horses you breed, of course, the more it starts to fill in, and you're like, oh yeah, I see the whole family tree, and that was so satisfying. This is the sequel. I put that in there to share my plight of finding a horse game that is not fucking awful. Because you've seen what this was, and then this was the sequel. This was the better version. Feel my pain. So yeah, like I said, I loved it, and I wish I could play it again from a today's perspective of the with the knowledge that I possess today. But I know that I played the shit out of this when I was a kid. As a summary, like I said, it was unique because of its art style. It had actual long-term goals and strategies. Like, you actually wanted to achieve a horse that had a higher stamina value, and that took you several hours. I don't know, it was fun because I wish I could define it better, but like I said, I can't play it anymore. I call it the only horse game with a soul because it doesn't feel like a cheap cash grab like every other fucking game in the genre does. But I also wanted to the one thing that I remember from a critical perspective is that the end game was kind of boring because at a certain point you had all your buildings upgraded and you could actually hire someone who did the daily chores of feeding your horses, and then you just didn't have anything to do anymore. So there wasn't really a finishing the game as much as there was a getting bored with the game, and that's bad. So yeah, that's the one thing that the game did badly, was there was no end game at all. And its other flaw is that I cannot fucking play it anymore. If you like the concept of me ranting about horse games, may I invite you to themainquest.com, where I do that a lot recently. The Main Quest, for those who haven't heard it before, is a website about horses and video games. I talk about shitty old horse games, but I also talk about modern horse games and how they implement horses. Modern games with horses. My next article is going to be about the dressage maneuvers you can do in Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm going to compare them with the real-life equivalents. So I'm really going to do a deep dive into horse movement and how it looks. Thank you.